Hello, I'm Seth Clevenger, Managing Editor of Features and Multimedia at Transport Topics. I'd like to welcome you to the first ever Transport Topics Brown Bag webinar, How to Combat Rising Insurance Costs. The Transport Topics Brown Bag webinar series offers a new interview-focused spin on the traditional webinar format. The brown bag concept comes from the lunchtime segment we host during our quarterly TT Magazine event series programs, where we invite attendees to lunch and learn while listening to a TT editor and an expert guest delve into the key topics and trends that are top of mind for trucking industry leaders. Now we are offering the same style of conversation in the standalone webinar series under the same name. Today, we'll be taking a closer look at insurance and claims management in the trucking industry with the help of Chaz Nichols, Vice President of Business Development for Transportation at Davies Group, our program sponsor. Welcome, Chaz.
Thanks, Seth. Glad to be here.
So to help set the stage for this conversation, I'd like to start out just by having you tell our viewers a little bit about your experience in the transportation industry and the work you're doing at Davies Group, just to get us going here.
Sure, absolutely. I was part of a legacy company acquired by Davies a few years ago, and we have actually taken our unit and we've turned it. We are the sole transportation group within Davies. So, I hate to say, almost 30 years experience in the industry on claims, seeing pretty much all aspects and every type of claim out there. But the transportation part is near and dear to my heart. It's something we got into many years ago. Started out on the independent IA adjusting side, boots on the ground, field in the ground. Excuse me, and we have built that into a very large TPA program, third party administrator, that's built from the grounds up. And it's really exciting in watching what the changes and the technology and everything that's happened in probably the last 10, 15 years. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, just speaking for myself, I've been covering the industry at Transport Topics for about 13 years myself. So I've seen pretty much the same thing. And the conversations we were having 10, 12, 13 years ago are so different than what's happening now. A lot of the same issues, but the technology side of the industry has really advanced by leaps and bounds. And now getting into the insurance side of things, in general, transportation and logistics is a hard market for insurance, right? We've seen insurance costs increase in recent years, and some insurance providers have exited the transportation space altogether. So tell us why Davies is leaning into this market when some others have been leaving it.
Sure. Starting the U.S. transportation industry, it's estimated to be about $1.5 trillion and growing. So that's kind of the exciting part on our side. We partner with carriers that make a difference in the transportation market. Our firm specializes in transportation that includes everything from private passenger vehicles to 18-wheelers throughout the U.S. It's still a very large, robust, growing market. We offer significant amount of flexibility, customization within our workflows and processes, which is one of the many areas where we receive high amounts of praise from our client base. We can also transmit data between our claims administration system and our client's policy administration system through a customized API feed. As a claims solution provider, we consider ourselves on the forefront of technology and believe this has been one of the many reasons we've been so successful in the industry.
Yeah, no, of course, the transportation industry is so critical to the U.S. economy, and really it's the circulatory system for businesses of all types that have goods to move. So it's good to see folks who want to support the industry on the insurance side, given some of the challenges that we've seen in recent years. Now you got into this a little bit already, Chaz, but you focus heavily on claims management at Davies, and just take us through the types of claims you're handling for your customers and how you're working to streamline the claims management process and ultimately reduce costs for your customers, which is really important, especially during the current market.
Absolutely. In our transportation division, we handle APD, MTC, liability, NTL, comprehensive, collision, CGL claims. We kind of we talk about it on the backside, and it's we cover everything with wheels. It all starts with a proactive claims handling and matrix. Key to success is early contact and engagement with the insurers and claimants. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Um, we focus on the matrix like cycle time, closure rates, indemnity trends. We call called answers live, 24-hour contact, the salvage sale percentage, and et cetera, to assure accurate and timely and fair settlement. These all lower indemnity costs. In addition, we specialize in subrogation handling in the pursuit of all potential recoveries. These all have a great impact on the success of our overall program.
Yeah, and as you know, the trucking industry is currently navigating a down cycle in the freight market. I've alluded to this a couple times, and motor carriers, of course, have been dealing with lower freight rates, and brokers have seen their margins compressed. Now, when revenue's down, it becomes more important than ever, I think, to manage your costs, and that includes insurance, of course. And I'm wondering if you're seeing an uptick in customers who are really looking to focus on controlling their costs related to their insurance coverage and claims management, given the overall market conditions and thin margins, and a lot of folks out there who might be hauling about the same amount of freight, but for a lot less than maybe they were a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. All customers are looking to control costs, especially now, and they look for alternative ways to reduce their expense. As we all know, as insurance is one of the top expenses, not just here but for all businesses. We're seeing potential reduction in expenses across the board in different programs. One of the things we're seeing now is kind of a new trend is an RRG, which is a risk retention group.
Yeah.
We're seeing more of those. We're seeing increase in deductibles. We're seeing the bundling of policies, which in the past people would specialize on one or two lines, but the bundling now is providing a pretty good cost savings. And the other one is the annual aggregate deductible that we saw quite a few years ago, but now it's kind of back on the market, and it's a good tool to help reduce those costs.
Okay, so it sounds like there's just more options, and folks are exploring more options, ways to bundle or find ways to gain a few reductions.
Yes, absolutely.
So one of the reasons, and one of the primary reasons, I would say, that insurance costs have been climbing in the trucking industry is the rise of what we call nuclear verdicts, right? Really high dollar court cases, as well as just massive settlements. In the case of a crash involving a commercial vehicle, and it's become very clear that trucking companies have become a big target for the plaintiffs' bar, right? I mean, there are certainly trial attorneys who are really targeting the industry, and because they see companies with deep pockets that they're going after. So, just from your vantage point on the insurance side, right? I mean, that's a lot of risk that's out there in a litigious environment that we all operate in. How has this been affecting trucking and logistics companies? Your customers. What do you hear from them?
It's interesting because it's top of mind and it's talked about a lot. It's caused a lot of trucking companies, which is good. They're becoming more proactive, more forward thinking in the post loss prevention. These verdicts, have been crazy. This nuclear verdict, I mean, it's across the board. The verdicts are what's driving the larger settlements. Carriers and TPAs, we have to be we have to protect themselves against jury awarding damages in excess amounts. The reason the trucking industry is targeted is the state and federal requirements require them to carry much larger insurance limits than private passenger auto. Our insureds work constantly to try to put the best equipped truck on the road, with the best trained drivers in the market. Companies are spending more and more dollars on the risk management and the loss prevention, including many that require forward-facing 360-degree and inward-facing cameras at all times. These cameras capture all activities prior to accidents, show the true parties involved, the nature of the impact, damages, post-accident involvement with all other parties. The second part is the early settlement stage, especially with injuries on parties, with focus on settling the minor injuries to prevent the plaintiff attorneys from driving the claim. All these practices is going to help, limit or reduce the potential for larger settlement verdicts.
Yeah, and your point on onboard video cameras, that's certainly an area that we've seen really become commonplace in the trucking industry, and I think it's in large part because of the higher risk and having that information at your disposal, kind of an eyewitness on the road with your driver, and can exonerate your driver, or at least show you what really happened out there, not one person's word against another's, and can certainly protect companies. And that used to be very niche, very small business. I going through the exhibit hall at trade shows, you might see a camera somewhere tucked away somewhere on the side, and here we are today, where you see everything from these video telematics safety programs that are really sophisticated, and cameras even all around the vehicle, side cameras, stuff like that, to even just owner operators, small fleets that just at least want to have a dash cam on the forward facing as a minimum to help protect themselves. That's something that we've seen, and clear reflection, I think, of the litigious nature of the world we operate in.
Yeah.
And for sure, on the insurance side, there's a lot of way that can tie in as well. And I think that's actually a pretty exciting opportunity, to think about how technology adoption can help transportation companies reduce that risk. So I want to hear your perspective on that, especially for the opportunities to factor that technology and those technology implementations into their insurance coverage. What would you add on that, and the opportunities to maybe reduce their costs and risk?
Right. I mean, going, what we just talked about, but these technologies, I mean, they truly enhance the driver awareness and fatigue, which both help reduce the risk of being involved in an accident. The one thing, if you really think about it, when the driver knows that they have a camera constantly monitoring their activities, it prevents them from being on the cell phone. It distracts them with other items and things going on possibly in the tractor. Some of these cameras, some of the new ones, can also detect the driver fatigue,
Yeah.
and they notify the company and allow them to check on the driver prior to an accident occurring. There's other options. I mean, and we're starting to see more and more of driver safety training. I can't say enough about this. It's it's taking the time and spending the time with their drivers, investing time, investing money, investing in security monitoring, employing experienced drivers. We had a shortage coming out of COVID. A lot of people did. Their drivers were in short supply. We did see a fairly large uptick in claims. But getting back, employing that experienced driver, verifying the driver's employment history, hiring drivers with clean driving records, and another big one is operating newer tractors.
Yeah.
So,
no, there's certainly an equipment and maintenance element to this as well, right? I mean, if you're operating a newer vehicle, you're less likely to have some of the mechanical issues, and of course, some of the newer vehicles come with more technology options, active safety technology, forward collision warning, and lane departure warning, some of the technologies like that. Lots of driver assist technology that's becoming more commonplace in the industry, and anything that can help your driver, I think can go a long ways and ultimately, improving your safety performance reduces that risk. That's out there, and yeah, to your comments on the labor force and the driver pool. This is something that's always a challenge, not just recruiting, but also retaining drivers. Turnover rates are super high, especially in over the road truckload. It's shocking how how high turnover rates can be, and also the cost of onboarding a new driver. If you're seeing, some companies at some points in the market cycle can see, almost 100% turnover, and that's just, rates. That's really a challenge from a management standpoint, especially if you're trying to instill a safety culture. So these are, a lot of these challenges, a lot of these industry issues are interrelated, and they have an effect on safety and of course, ultimately on your insurance costs and considerations there. So
Absolutely.
yeah, at Davies, you of course have several claims management platforms that are designed to help drive down costs and shorten the claims process when that comes up. So just tell us a little bit more about how that works, how you're streamlining some of those processes when the time comes up for that.
Sure, sure. We've embraced technology. We started early on and we continue, and we always look for ways to make the insured's claims experience better. Um, we've made communication easier. We've made it more accessible, a lot more interactive. With insureds, our claims teams, our management, all through the whole process. We have the ability to handle the physical damage claims now via remote, to where we gather evidence by using virtual technology.
Mm-hmm.
We currently have a 1.75, 1.75 day turnaround time from receipt of proper documentation of the damage. Our nationwide coverage, our 2 hour contact with the insured, our qualified heavy equipment appraiser handling all assignments. We've seen a significant cost savings versus the traditional field appraisal expense, for our clients. And we take everything and on the technology side and our platforms, we continue to grow. We own a couple platforms currently, and we're able to to continue to build them out and integrate with the different trucking companies and the different technologies from all the different parts, and now utilizing the cameras and everything else. So we continue to grow the technology, and it's an exciting time now because it seems like every time you look up, like you said earlier, walking through a big trade show or something, and you had one booth that was the new, and the best. Well, now you walk through and there's 25 or 30, and each one is a little bit better and a little bit better.
Right.
And the great thing is with our technology and our platforms, we're able to continue the integration.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's going to help drive the future for the trucking industry.
Yeah, well, it is very important, of course. I mean, there's a lot of technology, and then the companies that invest in it, whether it's your back office, fleet management software, your TMS system, or your in-cab technology, telematics, ELDs, you want these pieces to communicate, and you don't want to have to separately manage all these different buckets of data. You want to be able to have a comprehensive fleet management IT system set up, and if you can latch on your claims management onto that, all for the better. It's going to make it that much easier. And it is remarkable when you think about the workflows and how workflows have changed. A lot of those processes that used to be very time consuming, labor intensive, are getting easier. There are ways to improve the workflow, whether you're a driver, whether you're a fleet manager, dispatcher, freight broker. We've seen the way that we're using technology is making things so much faster, and it's good to hear that that's happening on the insurance side of the industry as well, because that can only make things faster and better at the end of the day. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about some of the safety and risk considerations and insurance considerations for trucking companies, but beyond what we've already talked about, what would you say are some of the top safety and risk management trends that you're watching in the transportation industry, big picture?
Yeah, and with the volume of claims we have, we do see a lot of stuff. So, and that's one thing is we're looking at if we can continue and continue to push, the driver awareness training. That's great and that's big. The elimination of distractions, within the cab of the trailer. Technology to notify trucking companies when the driver appears to be fatigued or distracted. Just driver safety training again, investing in the security monitoring, and just not to repeat myself, but it's so important. It's to employ that experienced driver, and looking at the driver's history and clean driving record, and again, just bringing back and looking at operating newer tractors and with the newer technology, that's just going to go a long ways.
Yeah, and one of those items that you mentioned again is fatigued or distracted driving, and increasingly there are quite a few interesting products on the market now. In-cab technology you can deploy and get a better sense of again what's happening out on the road, and beyond that it doesn't have to be punitive to the driver. I mean, this can be deployed in a way that supports the driver, and protects them from a safety risk or from a false claim. So anything that can start to detect like head nods, eye movement, things that show signs of fatigue can support the driver. Like someone glancing at a cell phone obviously is a big problem uh, whenever that happens. But there are certainly a lot of ways to make that a lot more, address that, and make it a lot less common. And that's I think only going to expand in the years ahead. And speaking of the years ahead, I think it's always fun in these conversations to look ahead to the industry's future.
Sure.
So Chaz, you're on the insurance side, and I'm curious to hear what you envision in the years ahead for trucking insurance and claims management. How do you see that evolving in the years and decades ahead?
If we just look back a few years and see how far we've come, and then look to the future, I mean, the possibilities are unlimited. The telematics, it's going to help drive the industry. And I think the telematics term right now is could be archaic with all the new stuff that's coming out. There's no
Right.
telling what it's going to be with the AI. Um, we even look at the possibility, the elimination of cross country driving,
Hmm.
and possibly instead, having the trucks being driven remotely by drivers that report to an office every day. So I mean, that's cutting down a lot of the fatigue and time, and then ultimately the claims handling really doesn't change. It's just being proactive, a proactive claims handling with early relationship. And I mean, I stress that you build that early relationship with the insured. Um, an insured and the clients, we're here to help them to get back to pre-loss condition. And, it's the communication, and then the technology, like I said. So, it's exciting. Things are changing, almost, daily now. And now with AI coming in the picture, and all the stuff that's out there, it's really, I'm looking forward to it. We've come a long ways, and I really look forward to see where we head, in the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, I certainly haven't gotten bored covering the transportation industry. In my career at Transport Topics, it's been a fascinating industry to cover. It is changing very quickly, and you talk about AI. I think there's opportunity there for uh, actually utilizing the data that we're already collecting in a better way, in a more intelligent way, and that can probably touch on just about any facet of fleet management that you can envision. And surely insurance and risk management is absolutely one of those areas that we'll be watching in the years ahead. I see we're started to run a little short on time here, Chaz, but I'd like to open it up to you for any parting thoughts you'd like to leave our viewers with.
It's a great industry. And going back, the one thing I would like to point out, with the technology that we do have, is I'll go in and I'll sit down and I'll speak and talk to a carrier, and the technology is dialed in so much that you can take all the information like you're talking about, and instead of wasting it in buckets, we go through and we mine it, and we take a look, and we can tell you every red tractor that has had an accident in this zip code on every Tuesday. And I mean, this is a crazy example, but I mean, the future is here and the technology is here, and again, it's a great industry.
Well, hey, this has been a really great interview and great conversation about some of these issues that really matter for trucking and logistics companies. Insurance is top of mind, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So, thanks again, Chaz, for joining the program and sharing your insights. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.